At the beginning of the story, two terrified women watch as a gate is unlocked. We encounter Zahn as we stand before the gate. A legendary beast called the Kirin emerges when the gate opens. When the Kirin questions him about opening the gate, Zahn explains that he is seeking to use its power to cure his mother, who is ill. He lashes out in an attack, his arms engulfed in flames. He hits the beast square in the head, yet it takes no damage. The sheer force of the beast's speed swiftly sends him hurtling through the air. Holding his arm, which looks shattered, he activates his Phoenix Burst ability while smiling. He resumes his assault after his arm is healed. In an effort to push Zahn back, he hurls a massive stone pillar at the beast. However, the Kirin effortlessly breaks it. Out of nowhere, ice starts to spew from the earth, and the Kirin and Zahn are both rendered motionless. The axis of ice, Chen, is introduced first, and then the other three axes of the elements, earth, wood, and metal, follow. Just now, a young Kirin is seen bolting away from the gate. As the male axis tries to strike, the Kirin manages to get free of the ice. It takes on a more monstrous appearance and re-attacks Zahn. Zahn struggles to protect himself and sustains severe injuries as a result of their altercation. The two women are abducted by the beast, and Chen attempts to intervene, but the beast uses his one hand to block his strikes, and he is subsequently blown away. To rescue the two ladies, they must locate the Kirin's son, who has gone missing, and restore order to the demon realm. According to the Kirin, we encounter a girl named Sue in a Melvin's village 3 years later. As she stops to get some water on her way home from gathering herbs, she stops to say hello to an elderly woman. The 6th and 7th village elders are introduced to us. They share stories of how the village's unique elixir has improved their health. As Sue hurries past, they all wave. Finally, she reaches the drugstore and gives the 5th elder the herbs. Following this, she makes a beeline for her dad, but they collide, sending him flying and breaking his pot of medicine. Her paternal grandfather served as the village's 3rd elder-in-chief. He explains that she should use greater caution while he picks up the shattered pieces. He gives her some money and instructs her to visit the old master in the mountains to get a new pot. Nevertheless, he cautions her not to stray from the trail should she become lost. Sue immediately gets going. She encounters 3 masked men who appear suspicious as she travels. She flinches and attempts to conceal her cash as they draw near. They explain to her that they are on the road, trying to find a settlement where they may stay the night. Nervously, she gives them the village instructions and they hurry off, but Sue is so frightened by this meeting that she bolts. But then she takes a tumble and rolls down the hill. She stops and realizes she has lost her way. A huge caution sign reading, "The Spirit Fog Hill," greets her as she stands up. As the words start to shine, Sue watches in awe. She lets out a piercing scream as a wing scrapes against her leg. In an instant, she snatches the beast and tosses it aside, but then she remembers it was only a duck and pursues it. Upon reaching a lake, she notices Zahn undressed. The sight makes Sue nervous, and she slips as a result. As he swiftly leaps to his feet, Zahn flies by her to rescue the duck, even though he sees her fall. Sue is so shocked that she trips and falls into the pool. As a first step, Zahn meets Sue. When he questions her decision to venture out into the wilderness, she explains that she needs to find the old master so she can get a new pot. Knowing the man, Zahn offers to show her the way. Sue questions Zahn about the warning of entering Fog Hill as they continue on their way. Legend has it that the Fog Hills were once home to demons, and Zahn has come to tell you the story. The 5 elemental axis showed up one day, joined forces, and drove the demons back, sealing them away after they had destroyed humans, hunting and devouring them. The axis now acts as a check and balance mechanism to ensure that no one gets away. When they reach the old master's mansion, Sue is taken aback by the overpowering smell of alcohol. Everything on display, from pots to artwork, captivates her. Atop a wine mountain, the venerable master appears. Explaining that she is to get a new pot, Sue gives him the cash. After receiving the command from the master, Zahn promptly brings it over, and they both depart. Zahn chooses to accompany Sue back as the sun sets. The sound of the town bell alerts the village elders. The three men who were previously disguised are now advancing toward the gates. One of the guards is injured and begs for aid. Two others have already died. The sixth elder materializes, brandishing his two swords, just as one of the men in masks dashes up. He and the man get into a fighting match, but he soon finds himself unable to defend himself and ends up getting kicked and stabbed by the man. The fifth elder descends from his perch and charges into battle. Proving his superiority over the sixth elder, he charges forward with his spear, stands his position, and hits the man. But suddenly the other man in the mask steps into the fray as well. Attacking the fifth elder, the two men charge at him while simultaneously hurling their swords. The fifth elder manages to deflect the two swords, only to be pierced by the strange arms of their enemies. The fifth elder is likewise blown away while coughing blood, while the seventh elder tries to assist by firing explosives. A man deflects an explosive back at the seventh elder, inflicting a severe harm on him as he continues to shoot. Zahn shows up and stops one of the men in his tracks as he rushes to kill the fifth elder. As soon as Zahn lands on top of one of the men, he catches the other with his hand, exposing his bird's face as the mask falls off. Zahn sets his flames ablaze and burns the monster to dust. Sue and the elders are taken aback by Zahn's appearance. They immediately identify him as the legendary Flame Axis. In another part of the world, we see a little child called Dan chasing after a group of other kids who have stolen his lunch. As Dan yells at the kids, they run away, but he spots his brother Quinn, who has returned from a lengthy vacation, out of nowhere. Dan is ecstatic, so he hugs his brother and shares a quiet moment with him as his brother gives him a red fruit, which is Dan's favorite. Unfortunately, they don't get to enjoy this for long since they quickly rush over to the town gate to investigate the noise. The chief issues a retreat and regroup order at the gate. They bring the injured back inside and decide to let Zahn handle the rest. The masked man's feathers sprout from his head and show that he is actually a peacock. They start fighting, and at first glance, it seems like their speed and strength are about equal. However, Zahn is blasted away as the peacock dives at him and executes a breath attack. Zahn just escapes the peacock's barrage of punches in response. After Zahn pauses his assault, he unleashes his flames, which he uses to destroy the peacock. He swiftly accelerates with his flames and unleashes a devastating strike. The peacock is shot and flees the scene. After viewing the injuries, the other villagers are shocked and gather around the injured elders. The chief tries to calm the villagers, while Quinn tries to cure the wounds of the fifth elder. Demons have attacked, he says, so they must arm themselves. The chief is terrified to death when the peacock flies in behind him, out of nowhere. The peacock notices a specific aroma on him and requests his precise whereabouts. Zahn soars in and kicks the peacock away as the chief freaks out and has no idea what he's talking about. Peacock charges at the villagers with its breath attack, even though he pins it down. The peacock swoops in and slashes Zahn's arm and leg as he leaves himself vulnerable from behind as he stops the blast. In light of his wound, the peacock approaches Zahn and asks whether he knows what the humans have done. The peacock extends its wings and starts to light up as he promises to reveal their real nature to Zahn. Some of the locals start shouting as they see the peacock's feathers become purple while they stare at them. A metamorphosis even starts in the sixth elder. After a person has converted, the peacock will eat them and turn them into dust. Their essence is absorbed and it changes in its own way. It changes its look to that of a human and pauses to consider its metamorphosis. Finding its way to the treasure it seeks, it deciphers the old woman's thoughts. Zahn is left on the ground, tending to his wounds, while it takes off. As Zod swiftly pursues the demon, his power increases and his hair catches fire. He dons a mask to conceal his identity. The sixth elder is still alive and well, but now he's a demon running amok. He slaughters villagers and even turns on his own son, but Quinn dives in an instant to rescue the child. The sixth elder corners them, and he stabs them with his claws. Dan sees what's happening and runs to his brother's rescue in a fit of terror. When he leaps forward to attack with a stick, he is stabbed instead. When the sixth elder sees the damage he has caused, he begs Quinn to end his life. The battle between Zahn and the demon continues as she closes the gap. Fighting the demon's new shape, he starts to struggle. After every attack, Zahn tries to cling onto the demon, but all it does is blast him up the mountain with its aura. Zahn seems to have transformed into an even more formidable being when the smoke settles, his body engulfed in a radiant light. He seems to have escaped unscathed. In his pursuit of the demon, Zahn experiences a tremendous boost to his strength and speed. Snatching it with his flame whips, he then kicks it into a nearby mountain. In retaliation, the demon attacks with its feathers. In a move reminiscent of a drill, it combines all of its feathers into a powerful assault. When Zahn tries to stop it, it actually pushes him backwards. He draws on an inner strength that causes him to rip the attack in half just as its point is about to slit his throat. He swoops down on the demon and smacks it in the chest, setting its heart ablaze. Before he finally smashes the monster to the ground, he unleashes a furious flurry of strikes. Now that everything has settled, the demon is behaving like a peacock. In her opportunity to speak with the demon, Zahn inquires as to how it transformed the humans into monsters. The chief shows up in a state of panic just as the demon instructs him to go into the tunnel behind him in order to discover the truth. As he flees, he trips over a branch and drops a vial, releasing his elixir, despite his earlier statement that no one is allowed inside. Zahn takes the odd pill and gives it a whiff. Rushing into the tunnel, he finds the Kirin's kid imprisoned up in a cage after swiftly realizing what it is. The sight of it being utilized as the elixir's source infuriated Zahn. As he brings the Kirin away, the peacock makes a solemn vow. The demon world will come for the Kirin, and humanity will make amends for their transgressions. Zahn strolls past Sue, who is rendered speechless. The following day, when her father finally wakes up, Sue is there to console him and ask him why the demons attacked them. He tells her that their village was hit hard by a disease 3 years ago. They couldn't find a remedy, and half of the villagers were infected. However, the Kirin did show up one day, and the well got its hands on one of its scales. All of the peasants' ailments disappeared once they drank the water. This led them to capture the Kirin, which they then used to create their elixir using its scales. Upon their return to the hamlet, the first and second elders are met with horror by the chief, who sees their faces. Their appearance has been altered after using the elixir for an extended period of time, and the first elder is determined to reclaim the Kirin. Sue expresses her interest in learning more and offers to lend a hand by mentioning that she knows someone named Zahn. After getting used to his new body, the first elder promises to catch up with his colleague Chi, so she goes ahead. Our first demon, Asmodeus, along with the beasts of insanity and greed, are imprisoned in the depths of the Fog Hill. They hear that the peacock has died, but Asmodeus sees this as an opportunity to capture the Kirin because he assumes Zahn is too weak to continue fighting. Thus, he directs Zahn to be pursued by his 3 demon generals. Mara, the smaller demon, proposes a partnership. Sancho, the larger demon, is uninterested, so the two go their separate ways. Jean, Flame Axis, emerges and the lesser demons flee. The other elemental axes have joined him after sensing an interference with the seal. The male Axis approaches the barrier to investigate after seeing the peacock demon is absent. After finding a crack in the fire seal, he deduces that it must have been compromised 3 years ago, when Zahn was severely hurt. The male Axis points out that the peacock could divide his body, therefore he must have utilized that capacity to escape through the hole, and the other Axes wonder how the peacock managed to escape. They are informed by a bird that the peacock has already been defeated. The news surprised everyone, but they also knew that Zahn was the only one capable of pulling it off. While the other Axis go back to their positions, the male Axis orders Jean to fix the fire seal. At the same time, we observe Zahn and Sway, his duck friend. Zahn takes the Kirin with him as they venture into the Fog Hill, where he fears for the safety of his mother and his companion. He turns to face the direction they must travel, but a sharp ache in his neck interrupts his vision. Sue and Chi are seen on their way to a lake on the Fog Hill. The encounter with demons could happen at any moment, so Chi warns Sue to stay vigilant. She taps into her abilities and detects the Kirin's presence. Sue is about to fill her water bottle when she spots a face and quickly turns around. Two demons materialize and begin to charge at Sue. However, Chi swiftly intervenes, and Sue engages in combat with the two demons. She effortlessly slices through the crab, then leaps onto the second, and finally shoots it dead with an arrow from her bow. Mara unexpectedly shows up, and she informs Sue that it's not done, despite her relief. He blocks her shot with his water and then approaches her, struggling with his fan. She is forced to retreat as he unleashes a barrage of blades from his fan. She opts to collaborate with Sue because she can see he is tough. After they part ways, Sue draws her crossbow and begins shooting. As they open fire on Mara from every direction, Chi lunges at him, intending to knife him. However, he manages to halt the attack with his lips. Mara unleashes a lightning strike, startling Chi and eventually reaching Sue as well. Zahn unexpectedly attacks Mara just as she is ready to finish them off, causing her to be flung aside. Mara stands up again, and upon seeing the Kirin, he becomes giddy with excitement. He charges at Zahn, and the two of them start fighting. However, Zahn gets a hold of him and unleashes a torrent of assaults, destroying Mara's fan in the process. He believes he has the upper hand because of his ability to control water, even though Mara knows he is the flame axis. Before he can even hit Zahn with his water, Zahn unleashes a massive fireball that evaporates all the water, scorching Mara as he plummets to the floor in his primal state. Zahn is about to kill him when he feels a sharp ache in his neck. Mara seizes the opportunity, and he goes into a panic attack just as he's about to blow himself up. Everyone is carried away when he bursts into a massive water explosion. As the first and second elders tend to his wounds, we observe the fifth elder. We witness the demonic energy entering his body as they decide to utilize the elixir to heal him, as his wounds are too bad. Sui is no longer with Zahn upon his awakening, but he possesses the Kirin. He starts to stand up when he spots Chi standing by his side. He notices an unusual mark on her shoulder, but she snaps out of it and hits him before running away, accusing him of being a pervert. Exactly then, a demon by the name of Bel materializes. It appears that the demon harbors ill will towards Zahn. He claims to have spent the past decade training for vengeance, but Zahn remains in the dark about his identity. The demon lunges at him, sword drawn, and his orb breaks in two to strike Zahn. After Zahn disarms the demon's sword, he launches an attack using fire, but Zahn quickly spots the long-suffering wound on the demon's body. The pain in his neck saps his strength, and the monster flings him aside. Zahn regains his memory, and, through a flashback, we witness him as the protector of Fog Hill from a decade before. Zahn has made it clear that he would not allow Bel and his friend Wei to leave the area and cause harm to others. Bel believes that Wei's frail condition and impending death are caused by the length of time he has gone without human blood. Zahn effortlessly knocks Bel back, despite Bel's urgent attempts to rescue his companion. Just as Zahn is about to kill him, Wei steps in to try to save him, only to be pushed back by the powerful blast. Zahn slashes out with a flame sword, severing Bel's arm, as Bel charges at him in a fit of wrath. Bel explains that in the present, all they were doing was attempting to stay alive. Bel uses her ability to knock Zahn down cold, and he ends himself smashed into a boulder as he gets ready to battle. He deems him a letdown, and Bel points out his weakness, claiming he's even weaker now than he was a decade ago. Chi swiftly steps in to protect him, stopping all of Bel's attacks with his tail spikes. Yet, she misplaces the container containing her elixir pills. Upon realizing that one of the spikes had struck her, she deduces that she had been poisoned. Bel snatches her bag. He swiftly swallows the tablets after recognizing the Kirin scent. Even though Zahn has access to divine power, he is unable to use it because of what appears to be a parasite in his neck. Just as Bel is about to kill him, a green flame strikes him, and Jean, the flame axis, materializes. Awake at the same time as Sui, Sue discovers she is actually with Sui. Sui says she's been searching for answers after losing her memory 3 years ago due to illness. Sui advises Zod and the Kirin to leave the Fog Hill as soon as possible since, in her opinion, she is too weak to help them find answers. However, Su is perplexed by his abilities. Sui, on the other hand, asserts that he is a powerful sage despite being sealed at the moment. They opt to remain united, with Sui taking the lead in following Zahn's scent.
Jean advances toward Zahn.
Accusing him with their mother's death, he abruptly seizes him. Zahn informs us that they are brothers and that their mother is alive, claiming that he is en route to rescue them. He describes how he has spent the past 3 years searching for the Kirin and how he plans to trade it for their mother at the Aegis Tower. This is so unbelievable to Chen that he strikes Zahn in the face. But flame seeds do fall to the ground, and Jin is reminded of their history as a result. Zahn shows off his mastery of fire by defeating the other guys in the Fire Clan and then going on to get the highest possible score on his test. After informing his mom of the outcome, he sits down to a nice dinner. Out of the blue, he wants to know whether she knows how someone can quickly make their flame better. Despite his sincere desire to help his brother, his mother insists there are no easy ways out. In an abrupt scolding, Zahn's mother denies the existence of the barren flame, which he had heard could immediately increase one's mastery of fire. She warns him that many clan members have perished while searching the barren flame in the clan's prohibited area, and she bans him from following in their footsteps. Zhong seeks out his brother, who is clearly putting in a lot of time in training but is having trouble keeping his fire under control. Zahn shows up and brags about how he aced the test, but Jin isn't pleased. No matter how much he trains, Jin still can't control his fire, so Zahn attempts to reassure him that he'll pass the next exam. However, Jin doesn't want to hear it, and instead calls Zahn a genius who has it easy. Zahn witnesses his brother Jin training until his hands bled before he storms off, declaring his hatred for him. After sneaking into the restricted territory of their clan, Zahn starts to tumble down the mountain after slipping. He skillfully sidesteps a spike and deftly avoids the ensuing eruption of magma, ensuring a safe landing. Upon noticing several skeletons, he is taken aback and assumes that these individuals must be the ones who arrived in search of the barren flame. He spends a few hours surveying the area, but the oppressive heat eventually kills him. He fears for his life when he hears a voice. A flame whip ensnares him, and it begins to scorch his arm. The barren flame seeds are held by a flame demon that arises. Among all those who have sought, the demon cannot understand why a young man of his ilk would believe he might acquire the barren flame. The demon notices his abilities and questions his motivations for seeking a shortcut. Nevertheless, Zahn asserts that he is doing it for the sake of his sibling. Zahn is overcome with holy force as he remembers his brother's struggles and stops the demon from dropping the flame seeds into the lava as a taunt. Once he's free, he drops his palm into the molten rock in an effort to rescue the seed. Shocking the demon, Zahn swiftly grabs his neck and smashes him. After realizing his strength, the demon submits to Zahn, admits his original purpose was to seek out the rightful successor to the Fire Clan, vows to serve Zahn, and eventually attaches himself to his body. The devil reveals the barren flame and instructs him to transform it into seeds in order to harness its power. At the same time, Jin is still struggling to master his flame while he trains. In an abrupt appearance, Zahn squirts Jin with one of the seeds. Zahn assures Jin that he will soon have a breakthrough when Jin asks, "What's going on?" Jin passes the next exam shortly after. Jin hears the elders announce the next round's participants, but Zahn's name isn't among them. He wants to know what's happening, but the chief says Zahn can't go on since his hand is too hurt. After Jin gets home, he sees Zahn working on more seeds for him to refine. After considering all that Zahn did for him, Zahn is really glad for Jin, but Jin feels terrible that he was the reason his brother was demoted. Bella cuts Jin off just as he begins to believe him, and Mara makes an appearance as well. Jin turns into a monstrous beast and rushes forward into a fight with the two demons. Zahn leaps down and brutally defeats Mara when she smashes into him, shocking him with her lightning. But Zahn's wounds have not healed yet. In their battle, Jin uses his flame to attack Belle's orbs. As Belle gets ready to launch a massive attack, Jin charges up his flame. When the two strikes meet, Jin feels himself becoming overwhelmed. However, he quickly recovers by dividing his own attack into two. As a defense against the orbs, Jin fashions a ring of fire and hurls it at Belle, who is engulfed in flames and falls to the ground. Just as Jean is about to gather his breath, Mara pounces and shocks him with lightning. When Chen shows up to save Jean, Zahn is helpless, but Mara freezes in place. Chen manages to capture Mara as he attempts to flee, but he is encircled by ice. He is ready to detonate his explosives once more, but Chen uses his ability to thaw Mara and smash him to bits. Belle stands up again, this time berating them for confining the demon. Chen is about to kill him, but Zahn chooses to release him instead. Chen rushes up to Zahn and slaps him across the face as Bella clumsily walks away. The events of 3 years ago still sting Chen, and he is reminded of his failure to shield his mother and sister. In a flashback, we see Chen's sister Lin, who Jean wants to know the truth about. In order to assist Zahn in mastering his strength, she is reportedly being dispatched to the Fire Clan. She assures Chen that it would be alright, claiming that the task is not risky, but he is worried about her safety. As Zahn's mom looks on, we witness her training with him. Lin uses her water cannon to halt Zahn's assaults just as he chooses to turn serious. But his strength goes into overdrive when he absorbs her water. Zahn rushes for Lin when she gets blown away, but his mother blocks his attack and absorbs his flames into herself. His mom passes out, but we find out that the heat inside her is too much for her, and she doesn't have much longer to live. On the other hand, Zahn is cognizant of the Kirin myth. After returning from the Aegis Tower, Jean understands he saved their mother's life. Chen points out that he put the 1,000-year-long truce against the demons at jeopardy due to his egocentric acts. Shin takes note of the Kirin and decides to remove it, informing Zahn that he is no longer capable of completing the task due to his diminished strength. However, Zahn is adamant about making up for his own error and begs Shin to give him another chance, but Shin simply disappears. Zahn rushes at Shin and unleashes a hail of fire as he unexpectedly releases his godly power. Both of them are knocked back as Shin changes, barely halting his assault. Shin returns the Kirin to Zahn while threatening to take his own life if Zahn fails to rescue Lin. He's taken aback by his continued power and decides he must return to maintain the water barrier. She is recognized as a member of the Wood clan when the two brothers look in her direction. Zahn chooses to bring her along once he notices that Bala's attack has rendered her immobilized. Thank you for watching to this point. This is not the end. For part 2, don't forget to like and subscribe. We got other interesting anime recaps for you. Choose the left or the right video.